The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a low hum that made Commander Lee Do-hyun's bones vibrate. He walked forward with steady steps, his black military uniform crisp and clean. Behind him, Captain Park Min-ho carried a data pad filled with Earth's information. Lieutenant Kim Soo-jin walked on his other side, her communication equipment ready. The chamber was huge, bigger than any building Do-hyun had ever seen. The ceiling stretched up so high it disappeared into darkness. Strange lights floated in the air without any support. Around them, hundreds of alien beings sat in floating seats that moved through the air like magic. Do-hyun had trained for this moment for 2 years. Ever since the first alien ship appeared in Earth's sky and sent a message in perfect English. The message was simple but terrifying. Your species will present themselves to the Galactic Council for judgment. Now he stood in the center of the chamber looking up at creatures that looked like nightmares. Some had too many eyes. Others had no eyes at all. There were beings made of what looked like living metal. Others seemed to be made of pure energy that shifted and moved like fire. At the highest platform sat the most frightening creature of all. It was 12 feet tall with gray skin that looked like stone. 4 arms ended in claws that could tear through steel. Its head was long and narrow, with teeth that gleamed like knives. This was Kethmore, Prime Chancellor of the Vorthok Empire. Kethmore's voice boomed through the chamber without him opening his mouth. The words appeared directly in Do-hyun's mind. So these are the humans, Kethmore said. How small they are. How weak they look. Laughter echoed through the chamber. It sounded like breaking glass mixed with the screams of dying animals. Do-hyun kept his face calm, but his hands wanted to shake. Min-ho stepped closer to him. Soo-jin's jaw tightened. We greet the Galactic Council, Do-hyun said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space. We come in peace, seeking friendship and understanding. More laughter. A creature that looked like a giant spider spoke up. Peace? Understanding? How amusing. Do they think we are here to make friends? Another alien, this one covered in what looked like purple scales, added. I have studied their species. They fight wars over colored pieces of cloth. They destroy their own planet for metal and oil. They are barely intelligent. Kethmore raised one of his 4 hands. The chamber fell silent immediately. Humans, he said, you have been brought here because your species has reached the level of space travel. This means you must be judged. The galaxy has rules. The strong lead. The weak serve. Do-hyun felt his heart beating faster. This was not going as Earth's leaders had hoped. They had sent him to make a good impression, to show humanity's best side. Instead, these aliens treated them like insects. We understand that there are rules, Do-hyun said carefully. We are willing to learn and follow them. Oh, but you will not simply follow rules, Kethmore said. His mouth opened in what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. You will prove your worth, or you will serve. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a world covered in ice and snow. The wind howled so loudly they could hear it even through the projection. Lightning struck the ground over and over, leaving black scars on the white surface. This is Cathera Prime, Kethmore explained. A dead world where the temperature never rises above what you call -200 degrees. The wind can strip flesh from bone in minutes. The storms can tear apart metal. The hologram changed to show a massive structure built into a glacier. It looked like a Colosseum from ancient Rome, but made of ice and metal. Strange symbols glowed along its walls. This is the arena of trials, Kethmore continued. For 1,000 years, species that wish to join the council have faced 7 trials here. The trials test everything: strength, intelligence, will to survive, ability to kill. Do-hyun stared at the image. He had expected negotiations, maybe trade agreements, not a death trap on a frozen world. What happens if we refuse? He asked. The laughter started again, louder this time. Kethmore's eyes glowed red. Refuse? Then your world becomes what we call a tributary planet. We will take what we want from your resources. Your people will work for us. Some of your species will be kept as pets or entertainment. Your weapons will be destroyed. Your governments will serve our governors. The chamber filled with excited chattering in languages Do-hyun could not understand. Some of the aliens were already discussing how to divide Earth's resources. But if we pass these trials, Minho asked, speaking for the first time. If you pass all 7 trials, Kethmore said, Earth will join the Galactic Council as an equal member. You will have the same rights as any other species. You will be protected by council law. Sujin leaned close to Do-hyun. Sir, she whispered, this could be a trap. They might kill our team and invade anyway. Do-hyun nodded slightly. He had thought the same thing. But what choice did they have? Earth's military was strong, but they had seen the alien ships. Humanity would lose a war against the galaxy. How many species have passed all 7 trials? Do-hyun asked. The chamber went quiet. Kethmore's smile grew wider. In 1,000 years? None. 0. Every species has failed. Most do not survive the first trial. The strongest made it to the 3rd trial before they died. A new voice spoke up. It belonged to a creature that looked like it was made of living crystal. The Zephyrians were strong warriors. They lasted 2 days. The Corvan Empire sent their best champions. They froze to death before the first trial even began. The trials are not just about fighting, another alien added. This one had skin like tree bark and eyes that glowed green. They test the mind as well as the body. Fear drives most species insane before they die. Kethmore stood up from his platform. Even sitting, he had been huge. Standing, he was terrifying. So humans, what is your choice? Face the trials and almost certainly die? Or accept tributary status and live as our servants? Do-hyun looked at Minho and Sujin. He saw the fear in their eyes, but also something else. Determination. They were soldiers. They understood duty. We need time to discuss this, Do-hyun said. You have 10 minutes, Kethmore replied. Choose quickly, my patience is limited. The 3 humans moved to a corner of the chamber. Around them, aliens continued to chatter and laugh. Some were already making bets on how quickly the humans would die. Sir, Minho said quietly, this is suicide. These trials killed species that are stronger than us. If we refuse, Sujin added, they will enslave our entire planet. Everyone we know. Everyone we love. Do-hyun closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about his wife and daughter back on Earth. He thought about the billions of people who were counting on him to make the right choice. We cannot let humanity become slaves, he said finally. Even if we die, at least we die as free people. They walked back to the center of the chamber. Kethmore waited, his red eyes gleaming with amusement. We accept the trials, Do-hyun announced. The chamber erupted in laughter and excited chatter. Aliens began placing bets immediately. Most wagered that the humans would not survive the first day. Excellent, Kethmore said. You have 30 Earth days to prepare. Choose your team wisely. The trials begin on the first day of the next galactic cycle. As they left the chamber, Do-hyun heard one alien say to another, this should be entertaining. I have never seen humans die before. Walking back to their ship, Sujin asked, what have we done? What we had to, Do-hyun replied. Now we need to find the best warriors Earth has ever produced. Behind them, the aliens continued to laugh and make their bets. None of them believed. These small, weak humans could survive even one trial. They were already planning the entertainment value of watching them die. But they had never met humans who refused to give up. They had never seen what people could do when they fought not for glory, but for the freedom of everyone they loved. The trials would begin soon, and the galaxy was about to learn something new about the species called humanity. General Yoon Jae-won stood at the head of the conference table in the underground command center beneath Seoul. The room was filled with Earth's best military minds. Maps and data screens covered every wall. The air felt heavy with worry and determination. We have 28 days to prepare a team for the impossible, General Yoon said. His voice was calm, but everyone could hear the stress underneath. The aliens expect us to fail. They think we are weak and stupid. Commander Do-hyun sat at the table, still tired from his journey back from the alien mothership. He had spent 3 days explaining everything he saw to Earth's leaders. The news had spread panic across the planet. "Tell us about the trials again," General Yoon requested. Do-hyun pulled up a hologram of the frozen world. Kythera Prime. Temperature never goes above -200 degrees. The wind can reach 500 miles per hour. Lightning strikes constantly. The ground is covered in ice that never melts. Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's leading expert on extreme environments, shook her head. Humans cannot survive in those conditions for more than minutes without protection. Even with the best suits, hypothermia will kill us quickly. The aliens know this, Do-hyun replied. That is why they are already celebrating. They think this will be entertainment. General Yoon walked to a large screen showing personnel files. We need people who can do the impossible. People who do not give up even when death seems certain. The first file appeared on screen. It showed a young woman with short black hair and serious eyes. Staff Sergeant Cho Yoonji, General Yoon announced. Age 26, survival specialist. She grew up in the coldest parts of Siberia. Her father was a Russian survival expert who trained her from childhood. She has survived alone in -50-degree weather for 30 days with no supplies. The next file showed a tall man with careful eyes and steady hands. Corporal Kang Hyok, combat engineer. He can build anything, from broken parts. During the border conflicts, he kept equipment working in conditions that should have been impossible. If we need something fixed or built, he is our man. A third file appeared. This one showed a young woman with kind eyes but strong shoulders. Private, First Class Nam Jisoo, combat medic. She has saved more lives in extreme conditions than anyone her age. During the mountain rescue operations last year, she kept soldiers alive in a blizzard for 6 days while waiting for help. The final file showed a man with scars on his hands and a focused expression. Sergeant First Class Lim Dong-hae. Weapons, specialist. His accuracy scores are the highest in military history. He can hit targets that other people cannot even see. In combat, he stays calm when everyone else is panicking. Captain Park Min-ho studied the files. 5 people against trials that killed entire armies from other worlds. How can we possibly succeed? By being human, General Yoon replied. The aliens do not understand us. They think strength only comes from big muscles and heavy weapons. They have never seen people who refuse to quit. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the news about the human trials was spreading like wildfire. On the Vorthak homeworld, crowds gathered around massive screens to watch promotional videos about the upcoming trials. Zeftal, commander of the Vorthak military forces, stood before a cheering audience in the capital city's main arena. Citizens of the Empire, he bellowed, his 4 arms raised high. Once again, a primitive species thinks they can challenge our dominance. These humans are small and weak. Their bones break easily. Their skin tears like paper. The crowd roared with laughter. Someone shouted, "How long will they last?" "The betting pools are already open," Zeftal replied. "Most odds makers give them less than 1 day. I personally believe they will freeze to death before the first trial even begins." On other worlds, alien species watch their own news broadcasts about the upcoming trials. The coverage was the same everywhere. Humans were described as entertainment. Something amusing to watch die. On the trading world of Nexus Prime, alien merchants were already selling souvenirs with human faces on them. Mugs and shirts that said, "I watched the humans die on Kythera Prime." But not every alien was amused. In a quiet research station on the edge of Council space, an old alien scientist named Veltar studied human data files with growing interest. Veltar belonged to a species called the Canari. They were small and weak by galactic standards, but they were very intelligent. Interesting, Veltar murmured as he read about human history. They fight wars that last years. They climb mountains that kill most who try. They explore places where nothing should be able to live. His assistant, a younger Canari named Pixel, looked over his shoulder. What is interesting about that? Many species fight wars. Yes, but look at this. Veltar pointed to a section about human medicine. When their people are hurt, they risk their own lives to save them. They will charge into danger not for conquest, but to help others. Pixel was confused. That seems foolish. Why risk yourself for someone who might die? Anyway, that is what makes them different, Veltar said quietly. Most species fight for territory or resources. Humans fight for each other. Back on Earth, the selected team was undergoing the most intense training ever designed. They practiced in freezing chambers that simulated the cold of Cathara Prime. They learned to fight while wearing heavy protective suits. They studied alien anatomy and weapons. Yunji taught the others how to build shelters from ice and snow. She showed them how to conserve body heat and how to move efficiently in extreme cold. The cold will try to kill you every second, she explained, as the team practiced in a freezer that had been modified to reach -100 degrees. It will make you tired. It will make you think slowly. It will make you want to give up. Hyuk worked day and night to design equipment that could function in the deadly environment. He created heating systems that used minimal power. He built weapons that would not jam in extreme cold. Earth technology is different from alien technology, he told the team. Theirs is more advanced, but ours is simpler. Simple things are harder to break. Jisoo studied alien biology and learned how to treat wounds that humans had never seen before. She practiced medical procedures while wearing thick gloves in freezing conditions. I might be treating alien injuries as well as human ones, she said. If we show mercy to fallen enemies, it might change how they see us. Dongi practiced shooting in conditions that made accuracy nearly impossible. High winds, blowing snow, limited visibility. His shots had to be perfect because there would be no second chances. In those conditions, every shot counts, he said. Miss once and everyone dies. As the training continued, news reports from around the galaxy showed more alien celebrations. The trials were being promoted as the greatest entertainment in centuries. Ticket sales for viewing platforms around Cathara Prime were breaking records. Kethmore gave an interview to the Galactic News Network. I almost feel sorry for the humans, he said with his terrible smile. They seem so hopeful. They actually believe they can succeed where thousands of others have failed. The interviewer, a creature with multiple heads, asked, What do you think will kill them first? The cold, Kethmore replied without hesitation. They will step off their ship and freeze solid within minutes. It will be disappointing. I was hoping for at least some entertainment before they died. On Earth, the 5 chosen warriors continued their impossible preparation. They knew the odds. They knew that every alien in the galaxy expected them to die quickly and badly. But they also knew something the aliens did not understand. Humans had always faced impossible odds. They had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that should have destroyed them completely. General Yoon visited the training facility on the final day before departure. The whole world is watching you, he told the team. Not just to see if you succeed, but to see how you face this challenge. Win or lose, show them what humans are made of. Do-hyun looked at his team. 5 people against the galaxy's cruelest test. 5 people carrying the hopes and fears of 8 billion others. We are not the strongest species, he said. We are not the smartest. We are not the most advanced. But we are the ones who will not give up. When everything seems hopeless, humans find a way to keep fighting. The ship that would carry them to Cathara Prime waited on the launch pad. Around the galaxy, aliens were already gathering to watch the entertainment. They expected to see humans die quickly and quietly. Instead, they were about to learn what happened when people fought not just for victory, but for the freedom of everyone they loved. The trials would begin in 2 days. The galaxy was ready to be amused, but they had no idea what was coming. The transport ship shuddered as it entered Cathara Prime's atmosphere. Through the small windows, the human team could see nothing but endless white ice and black storm clouds. Lightning struck the ground every few seconds, leaving glowing scars. Across the frozen landscape, Commander Do-hyun checked his environmental suit one final time. The suit was bulky and heavy, designed to keep him alive in temperatures that would kill an unprotected human in seconds. Around him, his team made their own final preparations. Remember, he said over the comm system, we are not just fighting for ourselves. 8 billion people are counting on us. The ship landed with a heavy thud on a platform carved from solid ice. Through the speakers, they could hear the howling wind outside. It sounded like the screams of dying animals. Temperature outside is minus 190 degrees, the ship's computer announced. Wind speed is 400 miles per hour. Lightning activity is extreme. Staff Sergeant Cho Yoonji looked at her team members. Stay close together. Move quickly but carefully. The ice is slippery and the wind will try to knock you down. The airlock opened with a hiss. Cold air rushed in like a living thing, trying to steal their body heat even through the protective suits. They stepped out onto Kithara Prime. The arena was even more massive than the holograms had shown. Carved from a glacier that stretched as far as they could see, it rose hundreds of feet into the stormy sky. Strange alien symbols glowed along the walls, casting weird shadows on the ice. Thousands of alien beings filled floating viewing platforms that circled the arena. Their excited chatter filled the air despite the howling wind. To them, this was entertainment. To the humans, it was life or death. Kethmore's voice boomed across the arena, amplified by alien technology. "Citizens of the galaxy," he announced. "Today we begin the trials that will determine if these humans are worthy to join the Galactic Council, or if they will die as entertainment for your amusement." The crowd cheered. Betting screens showed odds that no human would survive the first trial. The most optimistic bets gave them 2 hours. "The first trial begins now," Kethmore continued. "The humans must survive for 48 hours while being hunted by 6 Krillian pack hunters. These creatures have never failed to kill their prey. The trial ends when all humans are dead or when 48 hours pass." A gate in the arena wall opened. 6 creatures emerged that looked like nightmares made real. They moved on 4 legs like wolves, but they were twice as large. Their bodies were covered in white fur that blended perfectly with the ice. 6 arms, ended in claws that could tear through metal. Their heads had no eyes but mouths full of teeth like swords. The Krillians could smell heat from miles away. They could hear heartbeats through thick armor. They had been bred for thousands of years to be perfect killers. The crowd fell silent as the creatures spread out across the arena. This was always the exciting part. Watching prey run in terror before being torn apart. But the humans did not run. Instead, Do-Yun gave quick hand signals to his team. They moved into a defensive formation they had practiced hundreds of times. Yoonji pulled equipment from her pack and began building something in the ice. "What are they doing?" asked an alien in the viewing stands. "Why are they not running?" Corporal Kang Hyuk was already at work with his tools modifying their equipment. Private First Class Nam Ji-soo checked her medical supplies while keeping watch. Sergeant First Class Lim Dong-hae found a position where he could see the entire arena. The first Krillian attacked without warning. It leaped through the air, claws extended, moving faster than anything that large should move. Dong-hae's rifle fired. Once. The shot took the creature in the chest, sending it crashing to the ice. Alien blood, bright blue, stained the white ground. The crowd gasped. In thousands of years of trials, they had never seen a Krillian killed so quickly. The other 5 creatures circled the humans, more careful now. They could smell the blood of their packmate. For the first time in their lives, they felt something they had never experienced before. Fear. Yoonji had built a shelter from ice blocks, using techniques she learned in the Siberian wilderness. But this was not just a place to hide. Hyuk had wired it with explosive charges made from their equipment. "They hunt by smell and sound," Yoonji explained quietly. "But they also rely on pack tactics. If we can separate them, we can defeat them one at a time." The second attack came from 2 directions at once. 2 Krillians rushed the shelter while a third tried to flank them from the side. The humans were ready. Jisoo threw a chemical flare that created thick smoke, confusing the creature's senses. Hyuk triggered his explosive trap, sending ice and metal flying. 1 Krillian was caught in the blast and fell, wounded and bleeding. Dong-hae's precise shots dropped the second creature before it could reach them. The third attacker found itself facing Do-hyun, who moved with trained precision, using the creature's own momentum against it. More blue blood stained the ice. The crowd was no longer cheering. They were watching in stunned silence as these small humans systematically destroyed creatures that had never been defeated. The remaining 3 Krillians regrouped. They were smarter now, more careful, but they were also angry. The death of their packmates had driven them into a rage that made them dangerous and unpredictable. The next attack lasted for 20 minutes. The creatures used every trick they had learned in thousands of hunts. They attacked from multiple angles, used the storm for cover, and tried to separate the humans. But humans had something the Krillians had never faced before. Teamwork based on love and loyalty rather than just pack instinct. When one Krillian managed to wound Hyuk, tearing through his suit's arm, Jisoo was there instantly with medical aid. While she worked, Yoonji and Dong-hae provided cover fire. Do-hyun coordinated their movements like a conductor leading an orchestra. The 4th Krillian died when it tried to attack the wounded Hyuk. It had not expected the injured human to keep fighting, or for his teammates to defend him so fiercely. But why? 5th creature fell into one of Yoonji's hidden ice pits, where Hyuk's explosives finished it. The last Krillian was the largest and oldest. Scars covered its white fur, marking victories from hundreds of previous hunts. It circled the human slowly, looking for weakness. "This one is different," Do-hyun said quietly. "It is learning from our tactics." The final battle lasted an hour. The creature was smart enough to avoid their traps and fast enough to dodge their shots. It used the storm and the arena's layout to its advantage, but it made one mistake. It tried to use human compassion against them by pretending to be more wounded than it was. When Jisoo moved forward to help what looked like a dying creature, the Krillian prepared to strike. It had not counted on Dong-hae's perfect aim or Do-hyun's protective instincts. 2 shots rang out simultaneously. The last Krillian fell to the ice, its blue blood mixing with the frozen ground. Silence filled the arena. For the first time in the trial's 1,000-year history, all the hunting creatures were dead, and their prey was still alive. The humans had not just survived. They had won completely. In the viewing stands, aliens stared in disbelief. The Krillians were legendary. They had killed thousands of warriors from dozens of species, yet 5 humans had destroyed all 6 of them in less than 6 hours. Kethmore's voice finally broke the silence. "The first trial is complete, the humans have survived," but he did not sound amused anymore. He sounded worried. Betting screens across the galaxy flickered and changed. The odds on human survival were adjusting rapidly upward. For the first time, some aliens were starting to bet on the humans. On Earth, billions of people watched the broadcasts with tears in their eyes. Their representatives had not just survived. They had proven that humanity could fight impossible odds and win. But this was only the first trial. 6 more awaited, each designed to be more difficult than the last. As the human team regrouped and tended their wounds, they could hear the alien crowd beginning to murmur. The amusement was gone. In its place was something the galaxy had not expected: respect and fear. The ice around the arena was stained blue with alien blood. For the first time in 1,000 years, the hunters had become the hunted, and everyone watching knew that something had changed forever. The human team had 12 hours to rest before the second trial. They used the time to repair their equipment and treat their wounds. Hyuk's arm was bandaged, but he could still use it. The others had cuts and bruises, but nothing serious. Around them, the alien crowd had grown larger. News of the first trial's outcome had spread across the galaxy faster than light. Ships were arriving constantly, bringing visitors who wanted to see these impossible humans for themselves. "They are talking about us differently now," Lieutenant Kim Soo-jin observed, monitoring alien communications. "Before they called us entertainment. Now they are using words like dangerous and unpredictable." Commander Do-hyun checked his equipment. One final time. The second trial would be different. The aliens would not underestimate them again. Kethmore's voice echoed across the arena. "The second trial will test combat skills and navigation. The humans must fight their way through an ice maze while being hunted by Vorthak warriors. The maze changes every 10 minutes. Blizzard conditions will limit visibility to 5 feet. The trial ends when all humans are dead, or when they reach the center of the maze." The crowd leaned forward in anticipation. This trial had killed entire armies. The maze was designed to confuse and separate teams. The Vorthak warriors were the galaxy's finest soldiers trained from birth to kill. A section of the arena floor began to rise, creating walls of ice 30 feet high. The walls moved and shifted, creating a maze that stretched for miles in every direction. Snow began to fall so heavily that the humans could barely see each other. "Stay close," Do-Yun ordered. "Remember the navigation techniques Yunji taught us." 6 Vorthak warriors entered the maze from different points. Each one was 9 feet tall with 4 arms carrying advanced weapons. Their gray skin could turn nearly invisible against the ice. They had never been defeated in single combat. The humans moved carefully through the maze using rope to stay connected in the blinding snow. Yunji led the way, reading signs in the ice and wind that told her which direction to go. The first attack came without warning. A Vorthak warrior materialized from the swirling snow, his 4 weapons firing energy blasts that melted the ice around them. But humans fight differently than other species. Instead of facing the warrior in honorable single combat, they worked as a team. Donghei's shot distracted the warrior while Hyuk rolled an explosive device between his legs. Jisoo threw a smoke grenade that confused the aliens' advanced targeting systems. Do-Hyun and Yunji attacked from both sides at once. The warrior was skilled and dangerous, but he had been trained to fight individuals, not a coordinated team that moved like parts of a single organism. When he fell, his blue blood steaming in the cold air, the alien crowd gasped again. No Vorthak warrior had been killed by inferior species in over 200 years. The maze shifted around them, walls moving, to create new passages and block old ones. But Yunji had grown up in environments where getting lost meant death. She could navigate by wind patterns and ice formations that others could not even see. The second Vorthak warrior tried to ambush them at a junction where 4 passages met. He had positioned himself perfectly, with clear lines of fire in every direction. He had not expected the humans to go through the walls instead of around them. Hyuk's modified charges blew a hole in the ice wall. The team poured through before the warrior could adjust his position. In the confined space, his 4 arms were a disadvantage rather than an advantage. More blue blood stained the ice. The third and fourth warriors tried to coordinate their attack, communicating through advanced technology that should have given them a perfect advantage. But Jisoo had done something no other species had ever tried in the trials. When the first warrior fell, she had stopped to treat his wounds even though he was an enemy. The wounded warrior had been so shocked by this act of mercy that he told his comrades something important. These humans do not fight like other species. They fight to protect each other, not to gain glory. The warning changed everything. The remaining Vorthak warriors began to fight more carefully, with respect rather than contempt. But careful fighting was not enough against humans who refused to give up. The fourth warrior fell when he tried to use the maze's changing walls to crush the humans. Hyuk turned the trap against him, timing the wall movement perfectly to pin the warrior in place for Donghei's shot. The fifth warrior made it to the maze's center first, thinking he could ambush the humans when they arrived. Instead, he found himself facing all 5 humans at once in an open area where his superior reach and strength should have dominated. The battle lasted 15 minutes. The warrior fought with skill that impressed even his enemies. But when Eunji was wounded by a glancing energy blast, something changed in the other humans. Their coordinated tactics became something more, something fiercer. They did not just fight to win. They fought with the desperate fury of people protecting their family. The warrior fell, but as he died, he spoke words that the crowd's translation systems picked up. "You fight with honor," he said to Do-Yun. "I have never seen such devotion among soldiers." The sixth and final warrior was the largest and most experienced. When he entered the center area where his comrade had fallen, he did something unprecedented in trial history. He laid down his weapons. "I will not fight beings who show mercy to their enemies," he announced. "You have proven your worth as warriors. I yield." The crowd erupted in confused chatter. This had never happened before. Vorthak warriors did not surrender. They fought to the death or to victory. But this warrior had seen something that changed his understanding of strength. He had seen humans risk their own lives to save a wounded enemy. He had seen them fight not for conquest but for love of each other. Kethmore's voice cut through the noise. The second trial is complete. The humans advance. But his voice carried a note of concern that had not been there before. These humans were not following the script. They were supposed to die bravely, providing entertainment for the galaxy. Instead, they were rewriting the rules of what the trials meant. In the viewing stands, other alien warriors were having quiet conversations. Word was spreading that something special was happening on the ice. Species that had been enemies for centuries were united in their amazement at what they were witnessing. As the human team regrouped and Jisoo treated Yunji's wound, they could hear the change in the crowd's voice. The cruel amusement was gone. In its place was something that sounded almost like admiration. "They are starting to cheer for us," Sujin reported, monitoring the alien communications. "Some of them want us to succeed." Do-hyun looked around the maze as the ice walls began to lower back into the arena floor. Twice now they had faced impossible odds and won, but he knew the trials would only get harder. "We have proven we can fight," he said to his team. "Now we must prove we can endure whatever comes next." The third trial would begin in 6 hours. According to the ancient records, no species had ever survived the third trial. It was designed to break minds as well as bodies. But as the human team prepared for what was to come, something was changing in the galaxy. Messages were being sent from world to world. Alien species that had never cared about the trials were suddenly paying attention. Because for the first time in 1,000 years, someone was proving that the impossible could become possible. The ice around the arena was stained with blue blood. But it was not the blood of the humans, and everyone watching was beginning to wonder if they were witnessing the birth of a legend. The galaxy was watching now. Ships from 100 worlds surrounded Kithra Prime, their crews glued to viewing screens. What had started as cruel entertainment had become something else entirely. Hope. Commander Do-hyun stood with his team at the edge of the 6th trial arena. They had survived 5 impossible challenges. The 4th trial had tested their minds with hallucinations and fear. The 5th had forced them to fight a massive creature in a collapsing cave. Each time they had done what no other species had managed. They had won. But now came the trial that would determine everything. The 6th trial was different from all the others. Instead of facing one enemy, they would face the galaxy's greatest champions all at once. The final trial before the ultimate challenge, Kethmore announced to the massive crowd. His voice no longer carried amusement. Now it held something like respect, mixed with fear. The humans will face 6 champions from across the galaxy, led by Commander Zeftal of the Vorthak military. The arena floor had been transformed into a battlefield. Ice platforms rose and fell at random intervals. Gravity shifted without warning. Freezing gases vented from hidden pipes. Everything was designed to make fighting impossible. 6 figures entered from the opposite side of the arena. Each one represented a different species. Each one undefeated in hundreds of battles. Zeftal led them, his massive form covered in battle armor that had been blessed by Vorthak priests. Beside him walked a crystalline warrior, whose body could become harder than diamond. A flame speaker whose touch could melt steel. A shadow dancer who could become invisible at will. A mind reader who knew his opponent's moves before they made them. And finally, a beastmaster whose symbiotic creature could tear through tank armor. Against them stood 5 humans whose equipment was damaged, whose bodies were tired, whose supplies were almost gone. The odds had never been worse. The battle began with an earthquake as the arena floor shifted. Gravity reversed, sending fighters flying through the air. Ice spikes erupted from the ground. Poisonous gas filled sections of the battlefield. In the chaos, the alien champions used their superior numbers and abilities to devastating effect. The crystalline warrior's diamond-hard body shrugged off human weapons. The shadow dancer attacked from positions they could not see. The mind reader anticipated their every move. Within minutes, Nam Jisoo was badly wounded by the Beastmaster's creature. Her left arm was broken and bleeding. Yak's equipment was damaged by the flame speaker's attacks. Yunji was trapped under fallen ice. The galaxy watched as the humans seemed to finally face defeat. But then something changed. When Jisoo cried, out in pain, something awakened in her teammates that went beyond training or tactics. Donghei's shots became impossibly accurate, driven by protective rage. His bullets found gaps in the crystalline warrior's defenses that should not have existed. Do-hyun moved like a man possessed, his tactical thinking elevated to an almost supernatural level. He began predicting the arena's changes, using the deadly environment as a weapon against their enemies. Hyuk worked frantically to repair their equipment while under fire, his engineering genius pushed beyond normal limits by desperation. He turned broken pieces into new weapons, ice into explosives, damaged electronics into deadly traps. Yoonji broke free from the ice that trapped her and immediately began coordinating their movement through the shifting battlefield. Her survival instincts, honed by a lifetime in hostile environments, kept them alive when death seemed certain. And Jisoo, despite her wounds, continued to treat not only her teammates but their enemies when they fell. Her medical skills and compassion created something the arena had never seen before: mercy in the middle of a battle to the death. The first champion to fall was the Mind Reader. He could predict the humans' individual actions, but he could not understand the love that bound them together. When he tried to read Do-hyun's mind during a crucial moment, he was overwhelmed by the commander's absolute devotion to his team. The distraction lasted only a second, but it was enough for Donghei's shot to find its mark. The flame speaker fell next, his heat-based attacks useless against Hyuk's ice-cooled armor modifications. The young engineer had turned the arena's deadly environment into protection for his team. The Beastmaster and his creature fought with vicious intelligence, but they had never faced opponents who treated each other like family. When the creature wounded Yoonji, all 5 humans responded as one, their combined attack overwhelming the symbiotic pair. The Shadow Dancer lasted longer, using invisibility and speed to stay alive. But humans had learned to fight enemies they could not see during Earth's long history of warfare. Jisoo's medical training helped her track the alien by its breathing and heartbeat. Donghei's shot ended the threat. Finally, only Zeftal remained. The Vorthak commander stood alone among the bodies of his fallen champions. His 4 arms held weapons that could level buildings. His armor had never been penetrated. He had never been defeated. But as he looked at the 5 humans still standing despite their wounds and exhaustion, he understood something that changed him forever. They were not fighting for glory or conquest. They were fighting for each other, and for billions of people they would never meet but loved enough to die for. "You fight with honor I have never seen," Zeftal said, his voice carrying across the silent arena. "But I cannot yield. Too much depends on this battle." "We know," Do-hyun replied. "We do not ask you to yield. We ask you to fight your best, so that when this ends, there will be no questions." The final duel lasted 20 minutes. Zeftal used every technique learned in 3 centuries of warfare. His weapons fired energy beams that could cut through starship hulls. His armor absorbed impacts that should have shattered mountains. But humans had something he had never faced: the absolute refusal to give up, even when death was certain. When Zeftal's weapons finally penetrated Do-hyun's armor, wounding him badly, the other humans did not retreat. Instead, they fought harder, their love for their leader driving them beyond normal limits. When Hyuk's equipment finally failed completely, he used his bare hands and whatever he could find. When Yoonji was too wounded to stand, she coordinated from the ground. When Jisoo could barely see through her own blood, she still tried to help others. And when Donghei's rifle was destroyed, he drew his sidearm and continued fighting with the same perfect accuracy that had never failed them. The end came suddenly. Zeftal, wounded and exhausted but still dangerous, raised his final weapon for a killing blow against the fallen Do-hyun. 5 human voices shouted no at the same time. What happened next would be debated by alien scholars for centuries. Some said it was just coincidence. Others believed they witnessed something beyond normal understanding. All 5 humans acted as one. Donghei's shot, Hyuk's improvised explosive, Yoonji's thrown ice shard, Jisoo's medical laser-turned weapon, and Do-hyun's own desperate attack all struck Zeftal simultaneously. The great champion fell to his knees, then forward onto the ice. silence filled the arena. Then, slowly, applause began. Not the cruel cheering that had marked the trial's beginning, but respectful acknowledgement of something extraordinary. 6 champions had fallen. 5 humans still lived. But more importantly, they had shown the galaxy what it meant to fight not for conquest but for love. As medical teams rushed to treat both the humans and their fallen enemies, aliens throughout the galaxy began to understand that they had witnessed the birth of a legend. One trial remained, the ultimate test that no species had ever survived. But for the first time in 1,000 years, betting pools were favoring the challengers. The humans had bled the ice red with alien blood, but they had also bled their own red blood in service to something greater than themselves. And everyone, watching, knew that tomorrow's final trial would determine more than just Earth's fate. It would determine what the galaxy believed about courage, sacrifice, and the power of love to overcome impossible odds. The final arena was different from all the others. A perfect circle of black ice 100 feet across, surrounded by a bottomless chasm. No walls, no obstacles, no environmental hazards, just 2 warriors and the weight of destiny. Commander, Do-hyun stood alone at one edge of the circle. His team watched from a protected platform, their wounds bandaged but their eyes alert. They had come this far together, but the 7th trial could only be fought by one person. Across from him, War Master Krav Thul emerged from the shadows. The crowd fell silent. Even aliens who had never seen Krav Thul fight knew his reputation. For 300 years he had never been defeated. He stood 9 feet tall with 4 massive arms and natural armor that had turned aside weapons that could destroy cities. His claws could slice through steel like paper. His strength could crush bones to powder. He had killed champions from over 200 species. The ice beneath his feet was stained with the blood of countless warriors who had thought they could defeat him. Human, Krav Thul spoke, his voice like grinding stone. You have impressed me with your journey to this place, but your story ends here. I have killed beings far stronger than you. Do-hyun checked his weapons one final time. His armor was damaged from 6 trials of impossible challenges. His rifle had 17 shots remaining. His backup weapon had 8. After that, only his combat knife and his bare hands. Maybe, Do-hyun replied quietly, but I am not fighting for myself alone. The battle began without ceremony. Krav Thul moved faster than anything his size should move, 4 arms swinging claws that whistled through the air. His first attack would have killed most opponents, instantly. But Do-hyun was not most opponents. He had learned from 6 trials how to fight enemies who were stronger, faster, and better armed than himself. He rolled aside, his rifle firing precisely aimed shots at joints in the War Master's armor. The shots barely scratched Krav Thul's hide, but they taught Do-hyun something important. This enemy could be hurt, even if only slightly. For 10 minutes, the human played a deadly game of evasion. Every time Krav Thul's claws came close enough to kill, Do-hyun was somewhere else. Every time the War Master tried to predict his movement, the human changed tactics, but evasion could not win the fight. Do-hyun's ammunition was running low and his strength was fading. Krav Thul had fought battles that lasted for days. This was barely exercise for him. The first serious blow came when Do-hyun's damaged armor finally failed. One of Krav Thul's claws raked across his chest, leaving deep cuts that bled freely onto the black ice. Red blood. Human blood. The first that had ever been spilled in the 7th trial. You bleed well, human, Krav Thul said with approval. But bleeding is not victory. In the viewing stands, billions of beings watched in tense silence. On Earth, 8 billion people held their breath. This was the moment that would decide everything. But something strange happened as Do-hyun's blood hit the ice. Instead of weakening him, the wound seemed to awaken something deeper. He thought of his wife and daughter back on Earth. He thought of his team, who had trusted him to carry their hopes to this final moment. He thought of every person on his homeworld who would live, free or die enslaved based on what happened in the next few minutes. The fear left him. The exhaustion faded. What remained was pure determination. Do-hyun began to fight differently, not just to survive, but to win. His shots became more precise, finding tiny gaps in armor that seemed impossible to hit. His movement became more fluid, turning each of Kravthul's attacks into an opportunity for counterattack. The War Master noticed the change immediately. Interesting. The wound has made you stronger, not weaker. I have seen this before, but never in a being so small. Humans get stronger when we have something to protect. Do-Yun replied, his rifle firing its last shot directly into Kravthul's left eye. The War Master roared in pain and anger. Partially blinded, his attacks became wilder but also more dangerous. One swipe of his claws sent Do-Hyun flying across the arena. The human landed hard, his backup weapon skittering across the ice. Kravthul advanced for the killing blow, confident that victory was finally within reach. But he had made a mistake. He had never fought an opponent who treated every setback as a learning opportunity. As the War Master raised his forearms for a finishing strike, Do-Hyun rolled toward him instead of away. The move was so unexpected that Kravthul's claws passed, harmlessly over the human's body. Do-Hyun's combat knife found the one weak point he had discovered during their long battle. A tiny gap where Kravthul's natural armor plates met at the base of his neck. The blade went in only 3 inches. Against a creature that size, it should have been meaningless, but it was perfectly placed. Kravthul staggered backward, his forearms suddenly clumsy. He looked down at the human in amazement. "Impossible," he whispered. "That strike should not have been able to harm me." "It was not just one strike," Do-Hyun explained, breathing heavily. "Every shot, every attack, every move I made was designed to weaken that one point. Humans do not win through strength alone. We win by refusing to give up until we find a way." The great War Master swayed on his feet. For 300 years he had been invincible. Now a being 1/3 his size had found the one weakness he thought no one would ever discover. "You fought with honor," Kravthul said as he fell to his knees. "I have never been defeated by a worthier opponent." The War Master fell forward, onto the black ice. His blue blood mixed with Do-Hyun's red blood, creating a pattern that looked almost like art. Silence filled the arena. Then, slowly, applause began, not just from a few aliens but from every being in the viewing stands. The sound grew and grew until it became a roar of approval that shook the very foundations of the ancient Colosseum. Kethmore's voice carried across the arena, but now it held no arrogance, only amazement. "The 7th trial is complete," he announced. "For the first time in 1,000 years, a species has survived all 7 trials. By the ancient laws of the Galactic Council, humanity has earned the right to join us as equals." But something else was happening in the stands. Alien beings who had been enemies for centuries were shaking hands. Species that had never spoken to each other were exchanging words of respect, because they had all witnessed the same thing. They had seen what happened when people fought not for conquest or glory, but for love of those who counted on them. Do-Hyun's team rushed onto the arena floor, helping their wounded commander to his feet. Around them the ice was stained red and blue with the blood of warriors from 2 worlds, but the colors seemed to blend together, creating something new, something that spoke of respect between worthy opponents. As the human team helped Do-Hyun walk toward the exit, something unprecedented happened. Alien warriors began to stand and salute, first the Vorthak soldiers, then others. Soon every being in the arena was on their feet, paying respect to the warriors who had achieved the impossible. "Commander," Jisoo said quietly as she treated his wounds. "Look at them. They are not looking at us like we are strange anymore." She was right. The cruel amusement was gone forever. In its place was something the galaxy had forgotten how to feel: hope. On worlds across the galaxy, celebrations began. Not because humans had won, but because someone had proven that courage and determination could overcome any obstacle. Species that had accepted their place as servants to stronger powers began to wonder if they too could fight for their freedom. The trials of Cathara Prime were closed forever that day. Kethmore announced that no other species would be forced to prove themselves through such deadly tests. The human victory had shown that there were better ways to measure worth than the ability to kill, but the legend was just beginning. In the years that followed, when young aliens asked their elders about courage, They were told about 5 humans who bled the ice red on a frozen world far from home. They learned about warriors who fought not for glory, but for love, who showed mercy to fallen enemies and never abandoned each other. The arena still stands on Kithara Prime, but now it is a monument rather than a place of death. Carved into the ice are the names of 7 human warriors who changed the galaxy forever: Lee Do-yun, Park Min-ho, Kim Soo-jin, Cho Yoon-ji, Kang Hyuk, Nam Ji-soo, Lim Dong-hae. And beneath their names, written in letters that glow with their own light, are the words that became humanity's motto in the stars. When everything seems impossible, humans find a way. The galaxy learned that day that the most dangerous species is not the one with the biggest weapons or the strongest bodies. It is the one that refuses to accept defeat when fighting for those they love. The aliens had been amused when the small humans accepted their challenge. They thought they would watch inferior beings die for entertainment. Instead, they witnessed the birth of a legend that would inspire countless worlds for generations to come. The ice remembers. The red stains never faded. And every being in the galaxy knows the story of the day humanity bled the ice red and earned their place among the stars. Not through conquest, but through courage. Not through strength, but through love. Not through cruelty, but through mercy. The trials were over. The legend had begun. And in the vast darkness of space, 8 billion humans looked up at the stars and knew they were no longer alone. They had earned their place in the galaxy through the courage of 7 warriors.